That flicker of rage in her eyes, I'll never forget it. Sierra stood over me, the empty wine glass still dripping red onto my dress as I reeled in shock. "Whoops," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. In that moment, something ignited within me, a spark of defiance I thought had long faded. I slowly rose to my feet, the sticky wine seeping into my skin as we locked eyes in tense silence. "You spiteful witch!" My voice came out steady, undergirded by newfound strength. "How dare you? In my own home that I opened to you." Sierra scoffed. "Don't be so dramatic, Evelyn. It was an accident. Right, babe?" My eldest son, Derek, watched impassively from the sofa, offering neither defense nor apology. Sierra sauntered over, draping herself on his lap as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just publicly degraded his own mother. I stood motionless as they dissolved into giggles, the sting of humiliation washing over me. This was the last straw. Sierra had chipped away at my dignity ever since she married into our family 3 years ago, slowly eroding the harmony in our home. Her vanity, selfishness, and spoiled coddling by my husband had blinded Derek to her subtle cruelty. But this act of violence, masking malice with feigned innocence, opened my eyes fully to the abuse I'd quietly endured from her. From them both. My hands balled into fists. I saw myself then not as a frail 68-year-old grandmother worn by illness, but a proud fighter ready to reclaim my power. Enough was enough. I refused to let Sierra's toxicity infect our family any longer. As I retreated upstairs, my mind racing with plans, I knew the time had come to fight back. I would start by reaching out to the one person I knew I could trust unconditionally, my youngest son, Alex. "Mom, that's horrible. I had no idea," Alex said. His forehead creased in concern as I recounted the wine incident. I'd asked him to meet me discreetly at a cafe down the street from our family home, not wanting Derek or Sierra to suspect anything. "She's a parasite," I said bitterly. "I was blind to not see how she's manipulated all of us until now. She and Derek, they've been bleeding me dry financially ever since they moved in, hoarding my money to fund their lavish lifestyle while I struggle." Alex nodded gravely. "I noticed designer clothes and fancy new gadgets, but whenever I asked Derek, he'd say it was from his big promotion at work." I let out a mirthless laugh. "All lies to hide their exploitation. Sierra thinks I'm weak, an easy target, but I'll prove her dead wrong." My son regarded me with care. "What can I do to help, Mom?" I reached across the table and squeezed his hand, my first genuine smile in months creeping onto my face. With Alex by my side, I felt emboldened, like I had an army at my back. "First, I need you to quietly gather evidence about their financial abuse," I said. "Bank statements, receipts, anything we can use as proof. Confronting them outright won't work. They're too manipulative. This requires strategy." Alex nodded firmly. "Of course. What next?" I took a long sip of chamomile tea, savoring the calm before the storm I would soon unleash on Derek and Sierra. "Next," I said coolly, "we destroy their lives like they've destroyed mine." "More wine, Mother?" Sierra's mocking tone cut through the tense silence that had descended on our usually cheerful family dinner table. Ever since the spilling incident, as I'd come to call it, Sierra had taken to publicly needling me in petty ways, all under the guise of sweet concern. I simply stared back stonily, refusing to gratify her twisted bullying with any visible reaction. Sierra's painted lips twisted into a scowl at my non-response. "Oh, let it go, love." My eldest Derek jumped in, always the peacemaker blinded by his wife's superficial charms. "No need to give Mom grief. It was just an accident after all." "Some accident," Alex muttered under his breath as he aggressively speared a carrot slice. My youngest had grown increasingly disgusted by Sierra's behavior since we'd had our secret cafe strategizing session last week. "What was that?" Sierra snapped. "Nothing. Nothing." Derek, ever the oblivious optimist desperate to keep up pretenses, waved his hand. "Now, Sierra, be polite. We're lucky Mom welcomed us into her home when we needed help." I bit my tongue, holding back the fiery retort on the tip of my tongue. We all knew Sierra and Derek hadn't moved in with me out of any familial sentimentality or hardship. After recklessly draining their savings on frivolous luxuries, they'd targeted my vulnerability as a widow living alone, seeing a chance to bleed my retirement savings dry under the guise of needing shelter. Well, not for much longer, you parasites. The thought ignited a spark of anticipation within me. After dinner, I was meeting Alex at his apartment, where he would show me the financial evidence of Derek and Sierra's lies that could ruin them. "So Derek," Alex interjected, "how's the big promotion going? Must be demanding work." Though his tone sounded innocent enough, I detected the subtle confrontation in his words, a thinly veiled suggestion that perhaps Derek's promotion was as false as the rest of the web of deception he and his wife had spun. My eldest shifted uncomfortably under Alex's gaze, a flicker of something like guilt passing over his features. "Oh, going great," he managed after a pause. "Just wrapped up a big project, so things are calmer now." "How lovely for you both," Sierra trilled, placing a hand over Derek's in a show of wifely solidarity. Her sharp eyes, however, glared daggers at Alex. Sensing the simmering tension, Derek cleared his throat and rose abruptly from the table. "Well, delicious dinner as always, Mom," he said with forced joviality. "I've got some emails to catch up on for work, so I'll excuse myself." With a quick peck to Sierra's cheek, Derek hurried off. Sierra and I locked eyes as Alex began gathering dishes. The sweet facade she adopted for my son's benefit had slipped, unveiled malice marring her perfectly made-up features. "You want a war, witch?" I thought defiantly. "You've got one now, and I intend to win." I awoke with a start, momentarily confused by the faint crashing sounds coming from downstairs. Bleary-eyed, I glanced at the clock. 2:37 a.m., blinked back angrily. My heart began to pound as more muffled bangs echoed up to my bedroom, followed by raucous laughter. Derek and Sierra. Of course. I slowly shuffled to my bedroom door and cracked it open. The couple had just returned from a rare date night out, no doubt funded by my stolen money. As their cackles grew louder, so did my boiling anger. Not only had those parasites wrecked my peaceful home with their constant demands, now they robbed me of sleep too? This had to end. Now. As I crept halfway down the stairs in darkness, the scene in my trashed living room came into focus. Derek was sprawled out on my good couch, shoes still on, and giggling drunkenly. My antique coffee table had been shoved aside carelessly, various bottles and chips littering the floor. Sierra wasn't faring much better, stumbling back from the kitchen with a bottle of my vintage wine in hand. I watched in outrage as she staggered against my bookshelf, sending a framed photo of my late husband crashing to the ground. At the shattered glass, Sierra simply cackled harder. Red-hot rage surged within me. These entitled brats had waltzed into my home, bled my bank accounts dry with manipulative lies, and now trashed my belongings like rebellious teenagers. I had enough evidence of their financial deceit to destroy them, courtesy of Alex's intel. Now this blatant property disrespect was the last straw. Steeling myself, I flicked on the lights and stomped into full view. "What in God's name do you think you're doing?" My voice boomed through the tense silence. Still in her glittering dress, Sierra froze mid-pour of the wine. Derek shot bolt upright, eyes widening at the damage surrounding him. We, he stammered before falling silent under my searing glare. After a weighted pause, Sierra let out an exaggerated sigh. "Oh, don't look so scandalized, Evelyn. We were just having a little fun." She attempted a breezy laugh and raised her glass flirtatiously towards me, as if to diffuse the situation with her usual coquettish charm. I stalked forward until we were nearly nose to nose, pleased to see a flicker of uncertainty in her made-up eyes. "How dare you?" I said, my voice low and steady despite my trembling fury. "How dare you vandalize my home that I opened to you, you ungrateful, spoiled brat?" Sierra's lips curled into a sneer. All pretenses dropped. "Or what? What will you do about it, old lady?" She stepped even closer, wine fumes assaulting my nostrils as she snarled. "Nothing, because you can't do a damn thing. You're weak and helpless, completely at our mercy, so why don't you scurry off back to bed like a good little old bitch?" My palm cracked across her cheek before I even realized I'd swung my fist. The slap split the heavy silence like a gunshot. As Sierra let out a shriek of pain and outrage, clutching her face, I felt a rush of dark satisfaction. "Get out," I whispered. "Both of you, get your things and get the hell out of my house." Their destruction had gone too far. It was time for war. "You can't kick us out. This is Derek's family home, too." Sierra's shrill voice echoed through the foyer. I crossed my arms, unaffected by her hysterics. After tossing the drunken couple out last night, following Sierra's cruel barbs, I'd given them until noon today to pack their things and leave. Of course she hadn't gone quietly. Not anymore, I said coldly. I've shown Alex all the proof of your lies and theft. My lawyer is filing an official eviction notice today. I saw Sierra's hazel eyes flare with anger, and perhaps panic, before she caught herself. When she spoke again, her voice dripped with false sweetness. Evelyn, let's be reasonable, she purred, sliding up to grasp my hands in faux sincerity. This is all a big misunderstanding. We would never want to intentionally hurt you. I ripped my hands from her grip. Save it. The bank statements prove exactly where my missing retirement money has been going, straight into funding your lavish shopping sprees. Sierra opened her mouth to retaliate, but I held up a hand. I don't want to hear any more lies. You have 2 hours before I call the police. As I turned on my heel, I felt the familiar flare of pain in my lower back from my spinal condition. The doctor said stress always aggravated it, and dealing with these toxic leeches in my home had pushed me past my limit. Gritting my teeth against the spasms, I reached for the bottle of prescription oxycodone to ease the torment. To my dismay, I found it empty. Strange, I just had it refilled. Before I could ponder further, Sierra barged into my bedroom unannounced. Missing something? She asked sweetly. Dread curdled my stomach at the sight of my pill bottle dangling from her manicured fingers. I figured you didn't need these anymore, since you'll have so much peaceful relaxation without us here nagging you. I lunged forward, but Sierra anticipated me, cackling as she danced out of reach. To my horror, I watched as she stormed into my bathroom, our bathroom, and held the pills precariously over the toilet bowl. No! Stop! I need those! The rest of my plea died in my throat as she let them slip from her grasp into the swirling water with a splash. My heart dropped as months' worth of precious pain relief disappeared in seconds. Whoopsie! Sierra tilted her head, regarding me with mock concern through her thick, mascara-coated lashes. Butterfingers. I'd fish them out, but... ew! Momentarily speechless with rage, I stumbled past her towards my jewelry box on the counter. If she thought a little pain would stop me from banishing them, she was dead wrong. But when I opened the box, I found it empty. Now I knew why the scheming addict had trespassed uninvited into my private space. The sight of my most treasured pearls and heirlooms stolen and discarded pushed me over the brink. With strength I didn't know I possessed, I grabbed Sierra's skinny shoulders and slammed her against the bathroom tiles. She yelped loudly. Up close, I could see a sliver of fear behind the disdain in her eyes. You listen to me, you toxic leech, I hissed into her face. Nothing will stop me from destroying you and Derek for what you've done. I pressed my forearm harder across her collarbone as she squirmed. Now for the last time, get the hell out! I stepped back, adrenaline and rage coursing through me as Sierra fled from the room. The war was on. It's done. The eviction notice has been served, Alex said, setting a folder thick with legal documents on the cafe table. I let out a long sigh, feeling the knot in my chest loosen slightly. After Derek and Sierra's cruelty reached new heights yesterday, I'd barely slept a wink. Now the first step of my vengeance was officially in motion. Thank you, Alex, I said, squeezing his hand gratefully. I couldn't have faced those monsters without you by my side. My son nodded. I still can't believe Derek refused to answer my calls last night. He knows Sierra crossed the line, but he's so deep under her spell. Disgust dripped from Alex's voice. She's completely corrupted him, I agreed bitterly. I just pray we can bring Derek back to his senses someday. I shook my head before taking a long draught of coffee. But first, we make them suffer. Determination flashed in Alex's eyes. You said Sierra physically tormented you. We could report them for elder abuse. Not enough, I said coolly. After years pandering to those parasites' wishes, I wanted to hit them where it truly hurt, their beloved social status. An idea began percolating. We need to turn their fancy social circles against them, I continued. Publicly drag their reputations through the mud. Share evidence of their lies for all to see. Alex frowned uncertainly. I don't know, Mom. A reputation attack could really devastate them. I leaned forward. Exactly. Sierra and Derek care about nothing except money and admiration from their vapid country club world. So we rip that all away by exposing them. My hands trembled slightly as I recalled Sierra's mocking face. After what she did to me, what they did, they deserve no mercy. I watched Alex wrestle with his conscience before resolve hardened his expression. Okay, he agreed. Where do we start? Over the next hour, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline, Alex and I outlined our retaliation scheme. Step 1 involved anonymously sending Derek's workplace the proof of his financial deception, putting his lucrative job at risk. Meanwhile, I would subtly inform Sierra's gossip-hungry socialite friends about her treatment of me, seeding rumors that would spread rapidly. By the time Derek lost his job, Sierra's reputation would also be shredded by scandal among their social circle. Their lives here would be untenable. Checkmate. As we parted ways, Alex pulled me in for a fierce hug. "It'll be okay, Mom," he said gently. "We've got this nightmare handled now." Pride and optimism swelled within me then. My son was right. The dawn had arrived to banish these parasites for good. Now we would make Derek and Sierra sorry they ever darkened our door. Over the next week, Alex and I vigilantly executed our plot as Derek and Sierra scrambled to fight the eviction notice. Phase 1 went smoothly. Alex mailed reams of incriminating evidence against Derek to his bosses. Meanwhile, fueled with self-righteous fury, I dropped whispered gossip bombs among Sierra's acquaintances at social events I knew they'd attend. By the time they left each venue, tongues would already be wagging with scandal about Sierra's cruelty against a helpless old woman. Soon enough, Alex and I noted whispers dying down awkwardly as Sierra entered rooms. Eyes that were once warm with envy now glared with contempt. I even witnessed one ringleader of Sierra's clique publicly snub her at a ladies' luncheon. Watching Derek and Sierra's glittering facade slowly crack bolstered my energy. The parasites were getting a taste of long-overdue karma, and my vengeance hungered for more. Soon, the fatal blow would strike. Our scheme was unfolding perfectly. This was it. Phase 2 of my master vengeance plan went into motion today, destroying Derek's career and reputation just as he and his wicked wife have destroyed me these past bitter years. My hands trembled slightly as I carried the anonymous package into the mailroom of Derek's prestigious finance firm. Thanks to Alex's inside intel, I knew exactly when new mail deliveries arrived to ensure my parcel would land directly on the CEO's desk today. The thick manila envelope contained hard evidence of Derek's deceit. Phony promotion paperwork, emails showing him misusing company funds for personal gain. Once exposed to the light, Derek's house of lies would come crashing down spectacularly. After handing the sealed fate to the clerk, I retreated outside to meet Alex around the corner. As soon as I slid into the passenger seat, questions spilled from my son's mouth. "It's done? They'll definitely see it?" His eyes shone with anticipation. My lips curved into a smile. Without a doubt. I made sure to address it directly to the CEO and partners. I pictured my parasitic son squirming under his boss's scrutiny and felt a flare of dark satisfaction. "Bullseye shot, Mom. Nice work," Alex grinned and reached over for a high five. As our palms slapped in camaraderie, I let out a breath I'd been holding for years since Sierra first darkened my door as Derek's vapid arm candy. Today marked the beginning of her downfall as well, and freedom for Alex and me. My phone buzzed with an update from my insider society lady, Magda. She confirmed catching Sierra drunk and belligerent at a country club luncheon today, throwing a spectacular tantrum for all the gossipy patrons to see when confronted about her treatment of me. I smirked, envisioning the scandalized faces of Seattle's most influential wives and matriarchs aghast at her audacity. Sierra's social death was all but guaranteed now. Alex and I decided to swing by a cafe near Derek's office to lay low for a few hours, not wanting to arouse suspicion by returning home too quickly. We passed the time eagerly dissecting potential scenarios, Derek being escorted out by security, Sierra's designer gal pals icing her out forever, their lavish leased cars repossessed within the month. I halfway listened as Alex prattled on about his new girlfriend and her plans to take me on a scenic mountain hiking trip. My gaze remained fixed out the window facing Derek's building, hungry for signs of implosion. Finally, just as the cafe owner flipped the open sign to closed, it happened. Derek emerged at a jog through the lobby's revolving doors. Tie loose, hair disheveled, face pale as a corpse. My breath caught as he frantically scanned the dark street before booking it towards his BMW. "Mom, look!" Alex's whispered voice barely penetrated my fixation. We both instinctively sunk lower in our seats as Derek's car roared out of the underground parking ramp and streaked by in the night. My hands, though liver-spotted with age, clenched into fists of unsated vengeance. Seeing Derek utterly unraveled after years of his soul-crushing deception tasted sweet, but like a perfectly seared steak, I hungered to fully savor the meal I'd cooked up. "One parasite down," I muttered under my breath. Alex touched my shoulder, solidarity passing between us. Now time to squash the queen bee. 1 week after Derek lost his executive job under the black cloud of scandal, Alex and I drank tea on my back patio, waiting for the other parasite shoe to drop. "Sierra missed her nail appointment yesterday," Alex said, "and salon gossip confirmed none of her circle invited her on Carol's annual Aspen trip this year." I nodded, blowing gently on my steaming cup. Bit by bit, Sierra's social bonds unraveled as my gossip campaign exposed her cruel ways. With Derek also in the doghouse, her golden perch atop Seattle's who's who started crumbling quickly. Now we anticipated the fatal blows to drive our revenge home. Right on cue, the patio door suddenly banged open. Sierra stomped out, mascara streaking her contorted face. I set my cup down, steeling my expression into cool indifference despite Sierra's histrionics. "Help me. I think my brakes were tampered with." She collapsed into the wicker chair opposite me, burying her face in manicured hands. I arched an eyebrow. Car issues were just the newest calamity plaguing her in recent weeks. "Excellent. What makes you think that?" I asked lightly, keeping my tone free of genuine concern. Alex swiveled to monitor Sierra, a perfect accomplice keeping up normal appearances. Sierra lifted her head, hazel eyes burning with fury despite the smudged makeup. "This is all your fault. Ever since your stupid eviction scheme, my life has fallen apart." She swept out a hand dramatically. "My friends shun me. Derek can't find work. Now potentially deadly car attacks. I know you're targeting me." I took a slow, leisurely sip of tea before responding calmly. "You've always been overly dramatic, Sierra. Nonetheless, I wish you and Derek nothing but the best moving forward." "Oh, cut the fake sweetness, you hag." She snatched up an empty planter pot, and for a moment I thought she might try to attack me again. Instead, she hurled it against the cedar fence with a frustrated shriek. I didn't flinch as terracotta shards exploded across the pavers at my feet. "I'd appreciate you not destroying my patio furnishings." Sierra's chest heaved rapidly, wet eyes still flashing daggers at me. But despite the aggressive posturing, her face had a hollow, worn appearance now. The queen bee's protective social armor lay in tatters, exposing her pettiness nakedly for all to see. My schemes had achieved exactly that, and I watched her crack and crumble with growing satisfaction. Just then, Alex's phone buzzed loudly in the tense silence. His eyes blew wide at the caller ID image, and he angled the screen for me to see. A glamorous woman wrapped around a shirtless, muscular man. Clearly not Derek. Bold text across the image read, "Cheating Sierra strikes again." My lips curled triumphantly. Our insider spies had captured Sierra's latest infidelity bombshell, another crushing blow I'd orchestrated to her status. Sierra lunged, but Alex yanked the phone out of reach. "That's photoshopped. I never cheated." She attempted a breezy laugh, but it came out shrill and frantic. "Right, Evelyn? Tell him that's fake." I held Sierra's panicked gaze, watching her shredded dignity burn away, my vengeance nearly complete. Finally, I drew myself up slowly. "I think it's time for you two parasites to truly leave my home." My voice rang with quiet authority. Sierra gaped, speechless. As she stormed away in surrendered defeat, Alex and I toasted over fresh tea. The parasites were banished for good. I had reclaimed my power at last. I awoke to golden rays of dawn streaming through my bedroom windows, the first morning in years where hope instead of dread propelled me out of bed. After banishing Derek and Sierra from my life forever yesterday, joyful relief now flooded my veins. I stretched slowly, for once not bothered by my creaky joints or chronic back pain. Healing was finally possible with those emotional vampires gone. I found Alex humming cheerily over a sizzling skillet when I drifted downstairs an hour later. "Morning, Mom. Celebratory cheese omelets?" He smiled brightly. My heart warmed at his infectious mood. With the parasites gone, Alex was positively thriving, his caring spirit unburdened. Over fluffy eggs and strong coffee, we chatted lightly about starting house repairs. Alex insisted on repainting Sierra's gaudy glam room gray to cleanse her tacky energy. As he rambled excitedly about redecorating visions, emotion suddenly clogged my throat. After years battling trauma alone, now I had my loyal son beside me, ready to heal wounds and reconnect. I squeezed Alex's hand tightly across the counter. "Thank you," I whispered, "for fighting with me. I love you so much." Alex squeezed back firmly. "We did this together. I'm just grateful to have my strong mom back." He smiled softly. "Those parasites will never hurt our family again." Over the next few weeks, Alex made good on his home improvement promises while I regained vigor and mobility. Soon colorful gardens sprung up outside, while inside, cherished antique furniture emerged from basement storage back into their rightful places. Alex also urged me to share our story with others experiencing elder exploitation. "What you did was so brave, facing abusive family members," he insisted. "Your experience could help other seniors speak up, too." Weeks later at my first community center meeting, apprehension and stage fright struck me momentarily mute. But seeing the attendees' encouraging faces, I found my voice. And soon my speech about overcoming parasitic relationships through courage and strategy planning roused a standing ovation. In the whirlwind months that followed between decor upgrades with Alex and counseling other seniors, I hardly had time to ponder Derek and Sierra's fate since their raging departure. Only vague rumors circulated among my society circles of their disgrace. So I was surprised when Alex poked his head into the living room one autumn afternoon as I reviewed brochures for an elder justice conference. "Mom, there's a woman outside asking to see you," he said carefully. My eyebrow quirked up. I rarely had unannounced visitors anymore. Before I could respond, Alex stepped back to reveal Sierra hovering behind him sheepishly. I slowly rose to my feet. Even with uncomfortably bleached hair and pounds thinner, I immediately recognized the haughty tilt of Sierra's chin. But her flashy designer clothes had been replaced by a simple turtleneck and jeans. Oddly, her hazel eyes lacked their usual combative scorn as well. I crossed my arms warily. "May I help you?"
Your drawings won't sell. If you have time for that, get a part-time job, Liam declared, tearing up the tickets to my art show before my eyes. As the torn pieces fluttered to the ground, tears welled up in my eyes. The dream I had nurtured since childhood, finally realized in my own art exhibition, was consistently belittled by both Liam and my in-laws whenever I picked up a pencil. Despite the constant criticism, I persisted. I juggled household chores and the care of our daughter Lucy, never neglecting my responsibilities. I refrained from criticizing Liam's hobbies, but this blatant disrespect was too much to bear. I decided I wouldn't forgive Liam. It was time to live life on my terms, without allowing anyone to dictate or complain. Picking up the torn tickets, I locked eyes with Liam. I'm Emma, 35 years old, married to Liam since I was 22. Lucy, our only daughter, just started elementary school. As a mother, seeing her adapt to school life brings me some peace of mind. After seeing Liam and Lucy off and completing household chores, I settle at my desk. Working as a freelance illustrator, my clients range from individuals to corporations. Despite steady commissions, my family has never acknowledged the value of my work. We reside in a second-hand house with my in-laws, who contribute nothing to household chores and only complain about my cooking and drawing, labeling me as useless. Their belief that drawings can't make money persists, despite my explanations. They suggest I give them money from the Social Security checks they receive, claiming it's proof of their past hard work. I proposed living separately, but Liam always defends his parents, making me the villain. Lucy adores her grandmother, who spends her money on toys for her. Lucy compares me unfavorably, believing her grandma would never say no. When I intervene, Lucy accuses me of being mean, causing public scenes. One night, after Liam scolded me for making Lucy cry, he decided that he and his mother would take care of her. This commitment lasted only 3 days before I was once again tasked with Lucy's care. Despite the challenges, my art thrived. Receiving an email invitation for a solo exhibition, I embraced the recognition from clients who appreciated my work. Working tirelessly into the night, I created new pieces for the upcoming exhibition. Despite my family's indifference, the thought of showcasing my art to a wider audience fueled my determination. Facing a dilemma about inviting Liam to the exhibition, I approached him during a baseball game he was engrossed in. His response dashed my hopes as he revealed plans to hang out with friends on the day of my exhibition. "Oh, can't you spare a little time?" I pleaded. "My artwork's been recognized, and I have a solo exhibition coming up. I was hoping you'd come see it." Liam remained fixated on the TV, silent. Desperation edged my voice as I repeated, "It's my first solo show. Some of my regulars even helped plan it. And I've got some new pieces on display." "What the hell are you talking about?" Liam finally looked at me, disdain in his eyes. "Don't drag me into your little hobby. It's not a hobby. Some of the displayed artwork might even sell. Who the hell's gonna buy your drawings? If you've got time for that, why don't you just get a part-time job?" Liam shouted, snatching the ticket from my hand. He tore it up, and the torn pieces scattered at our feet. Staring at the fragments in shock, tears welled up. Picking up the pieces, it became clear Liam would never understand my profession. I never belittled his hobbies, yet he never allowed me the same freedom. "I've had enough," I glared at him. "I can't take it anymore," I declared, venting my feelings. The words solidified my resolve. I'm gonna break up with Liam. To be honest, the thought of divorce had always been on my mind. I've already got a contact number for a lawyer who assists in the divorce process. But every time I considered it, Lucy crossed my mind. Our child needs both parents. Moreover, if I left, Lucy would have to transfer schools. That's what I'd endured all this time. But that ends today. Ignoring Liam's calls, I returned to my room. Packing my things, I confirmed the lawyer's business card was there. Heading to Lucy's room, I found her doing her homework at her desk. "Mom, I'm sorry," Lucy said. Looking at her face, guilt washed over me. I hugged her, and Lucy looked puzzled. "Lucy, I've decided to leave this house." "What?" The innocence vanished from Lucy's face. Although guilty, I continued. "What do you want to do, Lucy? Stay here with Dad or come with me?" Expecting her to choose her grandma, Lucy surprised me. "I want to be with you, Mom." "Lucy, I love the paintings you make," I said, and Lucy laughed. She smiled shyly and pointed at her desk. "Just trying to be like you. I want to be a good artist too." "No, you're already good. You'll surpass me soon." Tears filled my eyes. Lucy was drawing a young girl standing in a flower field, a theme I often drew. Leaving a note and the lawyer's business card on the dining table, Lucy and I headed to my parents' place. They welcomed us without hesitation, aware of the situation. "It must have been tough with Liam behaving like that, Emma," my mother said. "Yeah." Before I could catch my breath, my cell phone rang. It was Liam, seething with fury on the other end. "Emma, where's Lucy?" "She's with me. She decided to stay with me at my parents' place. If we're going through with a divorce, we'll need to discuss Lucy's arrangements." Though I aimed to shield Lucy from confusion, I yearned to seek support from my parents before navigating the divorce process. Surprisingly, Lucy opted to accompany me. "Dad, do you want to talk?" "Yes." I handed the phone to Lucy, and Liam's tone softened instantly. "Lucy, are you okay?" "Yeah, Dad. I'm sorry, but I want to be with Mom." "Why would you say that? Staying with her will make you unhappy. Come back home." "Dad, that's not true." Lucy replied calmly, revealing a surprising maturity. "Mom tried her best all the time. I've seen it. But you and Grandma kept saying hurtful things about her paintings. I'm worried about Mom. That's why I want to stay with her." With that, Lucy ended the call and gave me a bashful smile. I patted her head. Although it seemed we had no allies in that house, Lucy had been watching. In the following days, Liam bombarded my parents' home with calls and letters, all demanding Lucy's return. "It's okay. Everything will be all right." "Yeah, thanks, Mom." I continued my work as an illustrator, maintaining a calm demeanor while working from my parents' place. Unlike my in-laws, my parents contributed to household chores, and we supported each other. Naturally, I spent more time with Lucy. She asked me to teach her how to draw and help her with her studies, and I always responded with a smile. Alongside household chores, my art also demanded my attention. Still, I never mistreated Lucy, who had chosen to stay with me. As the day of my solo exhibition approached, my father couldn't attend due to work, but I decided to take my mother and Lucy. Then, one day, a knock echoed at my parents' front door. Lucy eagerly ran to answer it, but halted abruptly, returning to me in a frightened voice, "Mom, Dad's here." I had anticipated Liam might show up in person eventually. I took a deep breath. I had no intention of letting him in or even opening the door. I planned to send him away immediately. "What do you want?" I tried to sound as cold as possible. To my surprise, Liam's reply was, "Emma, please come back." I was wrong. "What are you trying to do?" I asked. His sincerity seemed genuine. In a weak voice, Liam continued, "My parents aren't doing anything. They're just eating fast food, and the laundry's been piling up since the day you left." It seemed my expectations were coming true. With Liam out for work most of the time, this situation must be challenging for him. Wearing wrinkled clothes repeatedly and unable to maintain a tidy appearance, finding new jobs was likely difficult. The house was descending into chaos. "Please help me out. I wasn't doing anything in that house either, right?" I let out a sigh. "Your mother said I was a wife who didn't even do housework. You agreed so too." I was wrong. My mom claimed she was doing all the housework, and I believed her. I was fooled. He spoke as if he were a victim, despite joining my mother-in-law in bad-mouthing me. "Don't you have any intention to do housework yourself? I've never even held a knife, and I don't know how to use the washing machine. That doesn't mean you can rely on me." Essentially, he wanted me to return and handle the piled-up chores. What a joke. I'm never going back to that house. The day I left, I let go of all my feelings for Liam. There's no way I'm going to feel sorry for him now. I'm not your maid. "Isn't it a wife's duty to do housework?" Liam's tone became harsh. Beyond exasperation, I calmly responded, "I don't want to be your wife anymore. Every morning, I rose early to prepare your lunch, yet never received a word of gratitude from you. There were days when the disappointment cut deeper upon seeing the untouched lunch. I diligently hung the laundry and ironed them to perfection, striving for a wrinkle-free result. Do you understand? I've been carrying out these chores 365 days a year without a single thank you. So what's your point? Isn't that what wives are supposed to do? If there had been gratitude, we could have been a normal couple. I feel more strongly now that we'll never truly understand each other. Liam didn't get it, and he didn't want to. He was just temporarily down on his luck. Deep down, he hasn't changed. I'm going to live on my own strength. You should try hard on your own too." "Hey, Emma." Liam continued, but I ignored him and returned to the living room. Despite Liam banging on the door, he eventually seemed to give up and left. My exhibition turned out to be reasonably successful. Walking around the venue hand in hand with Lucy, my mother beside us, she pointed to a visitor and remarked, "Isn't that Liam?" Ha! I was taken aback. Facing Liam directly would be awkward, and it might bother Lucy. With these thoughts, I observed the visitor's face. He wore his hat low, but it was unmistakably Liam. "Mom, watch Lucy for me." "All right." I left Lucy with my mother and approached Liam, speaking quietly to avoid disturbing others. "What are you doing here? Have you really made painting your job?" His tone lacked spirit, and his clothes appeared wrinkled and unkempt. Liam's eyes briefly met mine. "But you're not selling any, right? Look over there." I pointed to a certain corner of the venue. The painting on the wall is a new piece. Below it, it shows sold. That painting's already been snagged by a private collector, and it has a price tag. Want to know how much? No, I'm good. Liam took a step back, looking startled. The sight of my artwork being sold seemed to shock him. "Excuse me, do you have a moment?" A local newspaper reporter approached, expressing their intent to feature the exhibition in an upcoming article. along with an interview. For freelancers, networking is crucial, and this was a welcome opportunity. Liam's eyes widened. You're really making it big, aren't you? Well, let's just say I make more than you do, I replied matter-of-factly. Liam looked flustered, letting out a groan. He seemed to grasp the reality that our incomes were just enough to get by, and his parents' social security checks weren't the financial cushion they believed them to be. Emma, you're really something. What are you talking about now? I walked away from Liam, but he followed closely. Emma, let's start over. Paint as much as you want. I'll help with the chores. Please come back. I didn't respond. His plea felt too self-serving, leaving me dumbfounded. Then I noticed someone watching, a ragged-looking couple. It was Liam's parents. Standing in front of my sold painting, their eyes darted between the sold sign and me. They didn't even glance at the artwork. They were simply astonished that my paintings could turn into cash. Liam, how did you get in without the ticket? When I told them I'm the husband of the illustrator, they let me in. You mean ex-husband? I corrected, irritation evident. By tearing up the ticket, Liam had severed any benefits from my artwork. Now he had no choice but to rely on his income and the meager social security his parents boasted about. Excuse me, this artwork is wonderful. Thank you. Another customer complimented, leading to another painting being sold. Liam and his parents stood there, visibly stunned. From the next day, relentless calls from Liam flooded in. Dad, what the heck happened? I wonder what should we do? His attempts to reconcile were unprecedented. After some thought, I reported Liam to the police as a stalker. Despite receiving a warning, Liam persisted with his calls and stalking, resulting in police custody. Me? A stalker? You gotta be kidding! I'm her husband. That was his futile argument, considering we were already divorced. His parents, embarrassed and feeling the judgmental gaze of their neighbors, distanced themselves from Liam as if fleeing. Regardless of where they went, rumors followed. My family never approved of my job. That must have been tough, I shared during an interview. I'd opened up about the agony of not receiving recognition for my work from Liam and his parents. The headline in the local paper read, Rising Star Creator, a Tragic Heroine. Despite adversity, she continued drawing. Looking at the article, it felt as though it was about someone else. Being labeled a tragic heroine wasn't as glamorous as it sounded. It was indeed challenging. However, things had changed for the better. I now had my daughter, my parents, and fans who appreciated my work. Liam, the very thing you rejected had this much power. Thanks to the feature in the local paper, my reputation as an author improved. I started receiving more work and could support my daughter on my income alone. Staying at my parents' house felt uncomfortable, so I rented an apartment near my daughter's school. My parents seemed disappointed, offering, You can always stay with us. You've been through a lot in that house. Thanks, but it's my life, I said, reminding myself not to rely on others, a lesson taught by Liam and his parents. I'm going to take that lesson to heart. One day, my daughter brought a friend home from school. Adjusting well after transferring, despite the inconveniences caused by my circumstances, she proudly introduced me. My mother's an artist. That's so cool. Since moving, my daughter sounded more mature. She switched from calling me mom to mother and began practicing drawing more seriously. Previously, she doodled random drawings, but now she showed interest in the tools I used for work and spent more time watching me. I'm gonna be like you, mother. Really? That makes me happy. Want to try using this pen? Really? She blushed with excitement, reminding me of the joy I felt when I got new art supplies. Like mother, like daughter. At first, Lucy couldn't draw a straight line. Every attempt resulted in warped lines, creating a jumbled mess. However, after many tries, Lucy's drawings started to resemble actual pictures, and her use of paints and colored pencils showed promise. Apparently, she was one of the best artists in her class. Look at this, the teacher complimented her drawing. Really? Let me see. I was truly amazed. Witnessing my daughter's growth made me incredibly proud. I had only taught Lucy the basics, breaking down the human body into sections for easier drawing and explaining the relationship between light and shadow. Beyond that, she must have learned by watching me work or studying my finished paintings. Lucy might be even more talented than me, and I honestly believed it. Lucy gave a shy smile, expressing her determination. I'm going to keep on drawing for Lucy, for my fans, and most importantly, for myself, who never gave up on art no matter the circumstances. My son and I are embarking on a lavish new life abroad thanks to his $3 million. After the divorce, you won't be able to make ends meet, my mother-in-law sneered. Her demand for our address, coupled with the bizarre suggestion of licking her shoes, left me bewildered. What? I exclaimed. What are you talking about? I demanded, utterly perplexed. I had no clue what my mother-in-law was talking about. I admitted to myself. There had been no indication that they were planning to go abroad or that they had been saving up money. That's because I said my son got $3 million. We're going to live the high life overseas. Just the two of us, she boasted. The shock hit me like a freight train. Why would my husband leave the country? And where did $3 million come into play? Why do you want to know so badly? She taunted. Well, if you really want to know, kneel down and beg, licking my shoes, and maybe I'll tell. She sneered, her tone cutting. What's with that attitude? I retorted, my frustration mounting. Where is my husband? I demanded, seeking answers. Oh, it's very comfortable here. We're enjoying the high life with my son's $3 million, she declared with disdain. So you're no longer needed, she dismissed me casually. I was stunned by my mother-in-law's callous words. What did it mean that my husband suddenly had $3 million and was living a luxurious life abroad? Moreover, her treatment of me as an outsider fueled my anger and anxiety, and I knew I needed to assess the situation calmly. How did my husband come into such a substantial sum of money? And could that $3 million possibly be related to? Reflecting on my life, I recalled how I met my husband at work, drawn to his positivity and warmth, leading to our marriage. His parents had welcomed me warmly, and we later had a daughter who is now 14. Growing up in poverty with toxic parents, I was determined to cherish and love my daughter deeply despite facing hardships. However, when my husband was assigned to a project in Texas, he moved away, leaving me to manage work, household chores, and our daughter alone. Reluctantly, I agreed to live with my mother-in-law for support. Mommy, when will Daddy come back? My daughter often asked. It seems he'll be in Texas for a while. But don't worry, Grandma's coming over, I reassured her. Little did I know that decision would become the greatest regret of my life. You're working late again today, huh? Women who neglect their families, my mother-in-law's biting remarks greeted me daily. I have a job too, and I take care of our daughter. I defended myself, but she remained unsatisfied. When I was young, the family was everything. The thought of working outside never crossed my mind, she'd reminisce. On the day my daughter achieved good grades at school, she claimed credit. It's all thanks to me. What's the point of you? Maybe we don't need you around. Despite her minimal help with my daughter's homework, I had been the one primarily responsible for her education. Whenever I made a minor mistake in the kitchen, she would criticize me sharply. How did you and my son even survive before with such poor cooking skills? I'm doing my best, and everyone has their own way of doing things, I would retort, my patience wearing thin. She doesn't do her chores, she complained to my husband. Mom, she's working too. Please try to understand, my husband would interject. However, as we continued to live together, the relationship between my mother-in-law and me became increasingly strained. With my husband miles away, I felt more isolated. One day, feeling overwhelmed, I decided to call my husband to discuss the situation. Hello. You okay right now? Yeah, I'm good. What's up? It's kind of late. Well, your mom gave me a piece of her mind about house chores, and it's really getting to me. I'm sorry. Mom's always been a bit sharp-tongued, but maybe she has a point. Still, don't let it get to you too much. Just keep doing things at your own pace. Feeling somewhat reassured by my husband's words, I dedicated myself once again to our daily routine. However, as the days passed, the pressure from my mother-in-law continued to build, and I became more worn out every day. I eagerly anticipated my husband's return. Living with my mother-in-law without my husband around proved challenging. Initially, I coped by holding on to the remnants of his presence. But as days turned into weeks, her behavior became even more unbearable, and I felt crushed under the weight. She nitpicked everything I did from dawn till dusk and criticized me constantly. When I made my husband's favorite rice dish, she coldly remarked, "This tastes terrible. Who'd eat this?" Whenever I took a short break, she would chastise me with, "How can a woman who can't even handle household chores take a break?" I never had much confidence in housework. With my husband, he would just laugh off my little mistakes. In front of my mother-in-law, I realized I had no room for error. I think the way she treats me stems from her excessive love for her son. She seems unable to accept that he got married and moved away from her. This experience solidified my resolve never to become an overbearing parent like her. One day, after treating myself to a small shopping spree at a local mall, my mother-in-law got wind of it. When I got home, she was waiting for me at the entrance fuming. "How could you think of going out for fun when your husband isn't home? What do you think is happening with the household chores? I thought I needed a little break." "A break? In this situation, all this trouble is happening because of your ineptitude." After that, I awaited a call from my husband, hoping that hearing his voice might lighten my mood. However, the content of his call was far from what I expected. "I've got some bad news. My work in Texas isn't going well. I got into gambling, and now I'm in a tight spot financially. I've also accumulated quite a debt." "What? Are you kidding me? Gambling? In debt? This is way out of line. What's going to happen to our future and our daughters?" "I'm sorry, really sorry. I feel stuck right now, but trust me, I'll find a way." "How? How do you plan to handle this? How much do you owe?" "I'm working on a solution." I always thought of my husband as a sincere person who would never gamble. He was always punctual for our dates, and after we moved in together, he always came straight home from work. He would always thank me whenever I cooked or did laundry. It's because he was so sincere and honest that I married him. But with him away and the constant criticism from my mother-in-law, my life felt unbearable. "I can't believe someone as useless as you married my son." My heart was sinking into despair. Since my husband started working away from home, I've been constantly criticized and blamed by my mother-in-law. And my husband's recent confession deepened the despair I felt inside. His debts, the gambling issues, followed by an onslaught of more criticism from my mother-in-law. I couldn't handle it anymore, and one night I left the house and found myself crying on a park bench. Then one day, my mother-in-law discovered a secret from my past. At dinner, she used it as ammunition against me. "So, I heard you used to work in a nightclub, huh? Shame on you for raising my grandchild after working in such a place. How did you find out about that?" I was telling an acquaintance about how useless my son's wife is and showed them a picture of you. They recognized you. Apparently, you weren't even good at that nightclub job. In my past, frustrated with a mother who never worked and always partied, I left my family home. Struggling for money, I found work at a nightclub. It was a time from before I married my husband, a secret I believed even he didn't know. I was at a loss for words. I had never imagined my mother-in-law would discover this about my past, and she continued to use the secret to berate me further. "I can't believe someone like you is the mother of my grandchild. I'll tell my son and have you kicked out." The depth of my despair grew even deeper. My married life with my husband, all the efforts I've made, and the future I had envisioned felt as if everything was taken away with her words. The communication from my husband dwindled. I feared he had started to doubt and suspect me. One night alone in my room, I reflected on my life, meeting my husband, our marriage and our current circumstances, and the constant blame and accusations from my mother-in-law. I felt I couldn't go on like this. I can't take it anymore. Whispering these words, I stepped out into the silent nighttime streets. The hushed streets echoed the hopelessness enveloping me. My mother-in-law's harsh words reverberated in my mind, my past, my secrets, and my present, all targeted by her criticism and blame. On a park bench, under a starless sky, I sat contemplating the darkness within my heart. Suddenly, a familiar voice approached. "Mom, why are you here?" My daughter sat beside me, holding my hand. "Mom, don't let Grandma get to you. You work hard at an IT company, and you've been through so much. You're strong." "Thank you, but maybe Grandma has a point." "Mom, Grandma's just stuck in the past. In today's world, you should be proud of any job you've done. I'm proud you worked at a nightclub, really." "Yes, because it shows you've always tried your best for us, no matter the circumstances. Don't let Grandma's words control you." My daughter's words warmed my heart, and tears streamed down my face. "Mom, you're working hard in IT now, right? That's amazing. I'll always be on your side, no matter what Grandma says." Filled with gratitude for my daughter's support, I found hope that we could face challenges together. In my husband's study, I took a deep breath before diving into a mountain of paperwork. I meticulously examined each document, seeking to unveil his secrets: bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements. Slowly, my husband's financial situation became clearer. Why did this happen? I discovered numerous receipts from gambling activities: horse racing, slot machines, casinos. The thought of how much money he had squandered on these pursuits was heart-wrenching. Next, I turned on my husband's PC. The password was his birthday reversed. His inbox overflowed with collection emails and messages from friends demanding repayment of loans. Furthermore, promotional emails from gambling-related sites flooded his mailbox. I calculated how much my husband had spent on gambling. The result was an astounding $3 million, far beyond my estimation. Seeing that amount, panic set in momentarily, but there was no time to lose. I began planning to secure funds to maintain our livelihood. Drawing on my savings, the expected proceeds from selling our high-end electronics and luxury goods at home, and the savings from my salary, I worked on a financial strategy. Continuing my investigation, I reached out to financial institutions to understand the extent of my husband's debts. Obtaining credit information in his name, I devised a plan a few days later. Preparations for a life independent of my husband and mother-in-law were underway. I also strategized to repay my husband's debts. Leveraging my experience in the IT industry, I joined freelance projects. Creating a portfolio and registering on a website introducing freelance jobs occupied my days. Soon after, I received my first request from a client. This will help a bit with our living expenses. In the midst of daily work, I scrutinized our household finances. Canceling unnecessary subscription services, cutting down on wasteful spending, and researching cost-effective recipes became my routine. I successfully reduced our daily food expenses and, based on insights from local friends, participated in a community yard sale. Selling some branded items and unnecessary electronics, I earned a decent amount, contributing to our financial stability. A few weeks later, my freelancing endeavors were thriving, and a sense of financial stability began to settle in my bank account, sufficient for our living expenses. Upon returning home, I discovered that all of my mother-in-law's belongings had vanished. Simultaneously, my phone rang, and it was her on the line. "Oh, are you already home? I noticed our stuff is gone. What are you trying to say?" "My son and I are starting a luxurious life abroad with his $3 million. After the divorce, you won't be able to make ends meet. If you want our address, get on your knees and lick my shoes." Suppressing a chuckle, I responded, "Actually, that $3 million is a debt." "Stop joking. There's no way my son has that kind of debt." You might not believe it, but it's true. In his study, there are transaction records from banks and financial institutions, credit card bills, contracts, and more. Plus, on his PC, there are collection emails from financial institutions, messages from friends demanding repayment, and promotional emails from gambling sites. If you don't believe me, why don't you check? I just sent you photos of the evidence. Maybe you should take a look. You're lying. It's the result of him getting deeply into gambling, horse racing, slot machines, casinos. All in all, it amounts to a whopping $3 million. I just sent you photos of the evidence. Maybe you should take a look. I had no idea. He probably didn't want you to know, but it doesn't change the facts. In silence, my mother-in-law took a deep breath. I truly didn't know. I don't know what to say. Without another word, I hung up, resolving to begin anew. Shocked by the actions of my husband and mother-in-law, I focused on forging a future for my daughter and me. Later on, my husband called. I'm so sorry, truly I am. His subdued voice did little to quell my anger. Why did it come to this? Our family is falling apart because of you. I never thought it would come to this. But when I decided to go overseas with Mom, I couldn't see a future with you and our daughter. Flabbergasted by his words, I asked, You couldn't see? It's because of your carelessness and lack of planning that our family is in this mess. I know that, but it's too late now. I made a promise to Mom. Promise? What promise? One to sacrifice our daughter's future and grab a paradise just for yourselves. His silence was met with his sobbing on the other end. Calmly, I hung up the phone. The reason my mother-in-law confused assets with debts was due to a bill of $3 million that suddenly arrived at our home. She mistook the $3 million bill for a lottery-winning notice. She began planning her dream relocation overseas and approached my husband about it, unaware of his mother's misunderstanding and thinking starting a new life overseas would allow him to escape the debt problem. He accepted her proposal, mistaking a bill for a lottery notice. After that, I kept my anger towards my husband and began looking for a lawyer. I was set on preparing for divorce, claiming compensation for emotional distress and child support. Now, a new life was about to start. A life for me and my daughter independent from my husband and mother-in-law. I consulted with a lawyer about the divorce, emotional distress compensation, and child support claims. During this period, my daughter and I spent a lot of quality time together, and she became my strongest supporter. She fully understood my decision and chose to stay with me. Hearing her words made all the hardships, disputes with my husband and mother-in-law worth it, and I couldn't help but shed tears. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law and husband were struggling with their life overseas. Despite starting a new life there, they apparently faced continuous problems due to a lack of preparation and financial issues. Furthermore, after being pickpocketed and losing their funds, they faced even more difficulties due to the language barrier. In the end, they were deported for overstaying their visas. Later, I negotiated with my husband through the lawyer. The divorce is finalized. We've agreed that he'll pay the emotional distress compensation and child support in one lump sum. Thank you. Now I can finally start a new life. But all at once, wouldn't it be better in installments? He has been took on even more debt, seemingly borrowing money from some shady loan shark. I don't know what happened to him after that, and honestly, I don't care. After being evicted from her rental property and getting pickpocketed, losing all her savings, my mother-in-law ended up homeless upon her return to the U.S. My daughter and I started our new life. Sure, it wasn't always easy, but freed from my husband and mother-in-law, we could look to the future positively. I want to live happily, collaborating with my daughter who saved me from the depths of despair. I am Ava, and this is the tale of the challenges I faced in my relationship with my mother-in-law, Sophia. Despite living away from Sophia and my husband William's father, Benjamin, for years, distance couldn't shield us from Sophia's determination to disrupt my life. Sophia, with her somewhat old-fashioned beliefs, harbored a dislike for me that spanned years. When William secured a job near his parents, we found ourselves back in Sophia's sphere of influence. Dealing with Sophia wouldn't have been an issue for me, as I had learned to navigate toxic and controlling individuals through my own problematic relationship with my parents. Benjamin, my father-in-law, had always been supportive, making things easier for me. The real problem arose when Sophie gained access to my then 9-year-old daughter Luna. Luna, always affectionate and enjoying family time, only knew Benjamin and Sophia as her grandparents due to our no-contact relationship with my parents. Despite my past issues with Sophia, I set them aside for Luna's sake and allied with her to maintain a healthy relationship with her grandparents. William, valuing family deeply, made it impossible for me to cut off Sophia sooner. While Benjamin and Sophia were generally affectionate towards Luna, a persistent issue lingered with Sophia. She consistently criticized Luna's diet, claiming that I wasn't feeding her properly. According to Sophia, Luna needed more nuts for protein, accusing me of removing essential nutrients from her meals. Repeatedly explaining Luna's nut allergy, even the smell triggering severe reactions, didn't sway Sophia. She insisted I was wrong, asserting that Luna needed exposure to overcome her allergies and accused me of being a bad mother. I half expected this from you, Sophia. We've consulted with a pediatrician, and Luna receives balanced meals. People won't die if they don't eat nuts, but Luna could face severe health complications if she consumes them, I explained. Despite my efforts and the doctor's advice, Sophia never accepted the logic. She firmly believed that exposure was the best way to eliminate allergies. Exhausted from trying to reason with her, I faced accusations of being a bad mother. Sophia even attempted to convince Luna to eat allergenic foods, but Luna, aware of the consequences, consistently refused, growing increasingly concerned about Sophia's actions. I decided to discuss my concerns with William. I expressed my worry about leaving Luna alone with Sophia, fearing that she might sneak allergens into Luna's food for exposure therapy. Don't be ridiculous, Ava. My mom may be old-fashioned, but she knows her limits. Besides, Dad is always there to intervene in her experiments. Luna loves spending time with her grandparents, and we can't just tell her to stop. William reassured me. But Sophia is not improving her attitude towards Luna's allergies. I am genuinely worried about Luna's safety every time she stays with her grandparents without me. We need to address this. I'm sick with worry, I insisted. Relax, Ava. There's no need to cut off my parents over something so trivial. Luna deserves the love of her grandparents. She's content with them. You know what? Since you're so concerned about Mom, I'll talk to her. I'm sure she'll listen to me. William assured me that he would communicate our concerns to Sophia. His words rang true, considering Luna genuinely loved her grandparents. I couldn't bring myself to tell Luna to stop seeing them. If she had expressed any desire not to see them, I would have respected her wishes. However, I hadn't realized that no one could stop Sophia, not even William, who had failed to change her ways. The turning point came at Luna's 11th birthday party. Benjamin and Sophia were invited, and they promised to attend. Sophia seemed overly excited, and my motherly instincts were on high alert, though I couldn't pinpoint why. Sophia and Benjamin were among the first guests to arrive, surprising me since Sophia usually wanted to spend as little time near me as possible. She handed Luna a large square box wrapped in birthday-themed paper, saying, "Happy birthday, dear Luna. Here's your gift. Grandma has got you the best gift ever." Luna expressed her gratitude, and Sophie added, "The gift is so big. What's in it, Grandpa?" "I don't know, Luna. Your grandma picked the gift, and she won't even tell me what she got you. We'll both find out when you open it. Open Grandma's gift and see what she got you. I'm sure you'll love it, my dear. I'll be your absolute favorite grandma. I can't wait to see what you gave me. I'm so excited." We can open all the gifts after cutting the cake. Luna, let all your friends come, and once we are done with the cake, you can go on to open the gifts. No. You need to let Luna open my gift before she cuts the cake. That's the entire reason why I came extra early, to give her my gift, Sophia insisted. While I grew suspicious of Sophia's behavior, Luna appeared visibly happy to receive a nice gift from her grandma. The large, heavy-looking present fueled Luna's excitement, and she eagerly anticipated opening it, allowing her to start opening her gifts when all her friends arrived. I yielded to Luna's insistence on opening Sophia's gift before the birthday cake, as Sophia had told her it needed to be done the correct way. I didn't want to make her sad on her birthday, so I allowed it. Little did I know what disaster would follow. On her birthday, Luna and her parents were betrayed by the one person they were supposed to trust. Sophia not only ruined Luna's birthday, but also turned everyone against her. As Luna opened her gift, she discovered a large cake inside with her name on it. Her joy lasted only a minute until she became unconscious. William and I rushed to our daughter, confused and terrified, noticing the swelling of her throat. In disbelief, I saw William rush to get an epinephrine while someone else called the police. Knowing who was responsible, I confronted Sophia, demanding, "What the hell did you give Luna? What's in that cake?" Sophia feigned innocence, saying, Nothing, Ava. It's just a normal cake. I don't understand what transpired. There must be some action on your part that led to Luna fainting. It appears evident that you have neglected to provide her with proper nutrition, despite my prior warnings about potential consequences. You seem to have ignored them. Please refrain from attempting to shift the blame onto me. Just moments ago, Luna was happy and in good spirits, and now she appears to be experiencing an allergic reaction. I implore you to disclose what you have done to cause this distress to Luna Sophia. I sincerely hope you did not tamper with the cake. I regret not keeping a closer watch on you when you promised to procure the best gift for Luna. Inform Ava of your actions and take responsibility. Look at Luna. She is turning blue. Ignoring Sophia's presence, I focused on Luna and rushed over with the epinephrine that I typically use for my child. Although the swelling subsided somewhat, Luna remained unconscious. It became evident that a hospital visit was the only viable option to ensure her complete recovery. The room was filled with palpable concern for Luna. Tears welled up in my eyes, and even William appeared on the verge of tears. Sophia, already in tears herself, seemed somewhat frightened. At that moment, I resolved to dissect the cake and discover its contents. What I uncovered left me utterly shocked to my core. I demanded an explanation from Sophia, questioning her sanity for giving my daughter a cake filled with nuts. I had explicitly warned her numerous times about Luna's nut allergy. Sophia, what is wrong with you? You callously ignored my cautions and included nuts in the cake, jeopardizing Luna's well-being. How could you be so recklessly foolish? My only intention was to safeguard Luna, not to cause her harm. I detested the fact that Ava imposed such strict limitations on Luna's diet. While it's true that she might experience adverse reactions at times, gradual exposure could have been a solution. My frustration erupted when, in response to Ava's actions, I confronted her, exclaiming, "Are you out of your mind? My daughter is allergic to nuts, for God's sake. She could have died from this reaction. Who granted you the authority to unilaterally decide how to handle her allergies? Look at the mess you've caused. I am Luna's grandmother, and I have the right to care for my baby. I assure you she will recover in time. All of you are overreacting, attempting to frighten and punish me for nothing. I bet this is all part of Camilla's plan to tarnish my reputation. Listen to me, Sophia. If things go my way today, you will face severe consequences for your actions. But right now, ensuring my daughter's well-being is my top priority." As I finished expressing my concern, the ambulance arrived with paramedics. They attended to Luna and transported her to the hospital, with us accompanying her. The doctors at the hospital informed us that Luna would need time to regain consciousness and would have to stay at the hospital for a day or two. We were emotionally overwhelmed. I found solace in William's comforting arms after breaking down in the hospital. Once composed, I contacted Benjamin to update everyone that Luna was no longer in immediate danger. After hanging up the call, I turned to William and expressed my deep resentment, telling him, "William, I will never forgive Sophia for what happened today. Do you realize that she could have endangered our daughter's life?" William replied, "Ava, I've been contemplating the gravity of the situation. Trust me, it's beyond belief, something I wouldn't have accepted had I not witnessed it firsthand. My mother has transformed into someone so heartless that she's unrecognizable to me now. Sophia orchestrated all of this merely to prove that I am a negligent mother. She feigned concern for our daughter's happiness, but it never occurred to her that she was putting Luna in grave danger. Even after everything unfolded, she persisted in claiming that I had orchestrated the entire incident. Today has been an eye-opener for me, revealing the extent to which my mother is willing to go to tarnish your image. I can't express how deeply sorry I am for not realizing this sooner and for not taking decisive action to limit her presence in our lives. I feel a profound need to shield Luna from my mother's toxicity. I failed as a husband and an even worse father." The gravity of the situation started to dawn on William, while Benjamin, who had always been a reliable grandfather, was undoubtedly affected by Sophia's egregious actions. This time, they were determined not to let her escape the consequences easily. "We have come to a pivotal moment where we can no longer turn a blind eye to Sophia's harmful influence. It is clear that her actions pose a significant threat to Luna's well-being, and we cannot allow her to continue wreaking havoc in our lives. Sophia will no longer have a place in our family. We are resolved to protect Luna from any further harm and ensure that she grows up in a healthy and nurturing environment. This may be a difficult path, but for the sake of our daughter's safety and happiness, it is a decision we are committed to enforcing," William declared. Following a profound discussion, my husband and I swiftly reached a decision while Luna was still in the hospital. It was time to return home. Benjamin, Sophia, and a few guests stayed behind seeking updates on the situation, presenting the opportune moment to address Sophia's transgressions. 4 hours had passed since the incident when we arrived home. In the living room, we found Benjamin scolding Sophia, who nonchalantly typed away on her phone. Beside them lay the untouched birthday cake that Luna never had the chance to cut. Despite the sight bringing tears to my eyes, I restrained my emotions. As soon as they noticed our presence, Benjamin and Sophia rushed towards us. "I just got an update," I said. "Luna is in good hands, and she'll recover soon, though she's still unconscious. The doctors are optimistic. Thank God, Luna is going to be all right." I was frantic with worry, but it seems there was nothing to be concerned about. It wasn't even a significant issue. Luna will be fine, and her immunity against nuts will improve in no time. Her allergies will become a thing of the past. I told you I know what's best. However, at that moment, William unleashed his anger on Sophia, berating her for everything. Benjamin joined in expressing his disapproval, and the guests, visibly shocked, stared at Sophia with disdain. I, too, was seething with anger. "I've had enough, Sophia," I declared. "We've given you multiple chances to prove yourself, even after your actions led to my daughter being hospitalized. You show no remorse. This is the final straw. We will never allow you near Luna or our family again. You are banned from this house." Sophia retorted, "You can't dictate where I go. Your son won't cut me off over nothing. I won't let you take away my granddaughter just because we disagree on parenting." "No, Mom," I responded firmly. "You will never come near me or my family again. Dad is welcome here anytime, but you are not. He's the only rational grandparent Luna has. He's made earnest efforts to protect Luna from harm. Today, you sent Luna to the hospital, insisting it was the right decision. I cannot allow someone so callous to be around my daughter." Sophia couldn't fathom her own son turning against her. She placed utmost trust in William to defend her, unaware that he was a reasonable man, not deluded like her. Surprisingly, even the guests began berating her. Sophia found herself cornered with nowhere to go. Not even Benjamin sided with her. In a fit of desperation, she screamed at us, blaming me for intentionally setting her up to humiliate her. "This is your fault, Ava. You've managed to turn everyone against me. I won't forgive you for this. You should be begging for our forgiveness. Your actions have tarnished your own name and taken you away from Luna. You'll never see her again. I'll sue you for grandparents' rights. I'll take you to court, and the judge will grant me visitation. Just wait and see. I won't need anyone in my corner. I responded firmly, good luck trying to get grandparents' rights when you're in jail. I bet the judge would find it amusing to have a felon ask for grandparents' rights after endangering her own granddaughter. Sophia protested. What do you mean, Ava? Why would I go to jail? I haven't done anything wrong. Haven't you? What you've done is a crime, Sophia. You can be arrested by the police for knowingly exposing a child to allergens. It's considered a form of poisoning. Perhaps you weren't aware, but William and I know. We've already called the police on you. Here they are. They're coming to arrest you. In denial, Sophia retorted, No, you're lying. This can't be happening. You can't get me arrested for this. Sophia's panicked expression revealed her desperation as she pleaded with us to drop the charges. Tears streamed down her face, and she descended into hysterics. Just then, 2 officers entered and informed her that she was under arrest. Desperately, she clung to our hands, begging us not to send her to jail. William, unmoved, instructed the cops to take her away, while I gave Sophia a cold stare, signaling that her deceitful game had come to an end. In a last-ditch effort, she turned to Benjamin for help, imploring him to intervene. Benjamin, do something, please. You can't just let your wife get arrested like this, she pleaded. Benjamin, however, stood firm, declaring, When my wife has done something truly horrifying and shown no remorse for it, I will not protect her. For years, I've warned you to amend your ways, and you never listened. Today, you put my only granddaughter in danger. I was only trying to protect her, not realizing it would hurt her so badly. Please, Benjamin, I am your wife. You need to help me, Sophia begged. William, reinforcing his decision, stated, Sophia, I've already kicked you out of my life. It's the right thing to do. In fact, that's what I intend to do as well. Tomorrow, I will talk to a divorce lawyer. I want to be done with this as soon as possible. There's no way I'm staying with a psycho like you. This time, I will protect my granddaughter and my kids from your presence, I declared. In a state of shock, Sophia pleaded desperately, No, Benjamin, you can't do this to me. I'm your wife. Ignoring her pleas, Benjamin instructed the cops to take her away. Sophia continued crying and begging for help, bringing a tumultuous end to an event that had long concluded. A sense of tranquility settled within me as William, Benjamin, and that returned to the hospital after the departure of the remaining guests. The others, clearly upset with Sophia's actions, pledged to inform everyone about her reprehensible behavior. The following day, our little daughter Luna woke up showing considerable improvement. However, she displayed an intense fear of Sophia. Luna cried, imploring us to keep her away from her grandmother, recounting how Sophia had frequently tried to force her to consume allergens. Addressing Luna's fears, we assured her that her grandma would never hurt her again. We made a solemn promise that Sophia would no longer be a part of our lives, emphasizing Luna's love for her grandpa, who would continue to be a supportive presence. Luna, still traumatized by the recent events, expressed her aversion to Sophia. To assist Luna in processing her emotions, we enrolled her in sessions with a child therapist. Concurrently, William and I began couples therapy to enhance our communication as a family. The support of Benjamin played a crucial role in our collective healing, and we witnessed significant improvements, fostering a stronger bond among us. Meanwhile, Sophia's life took a swift downturn after the incident. Her actions had consequences, and the repercussions of her behavior became evident in the rapid decline of her circumstances. Once Sophia's own family discovered her reprehensible actions, they scolded her and promptly severed ties with her. Even her friends, repulsed by her behavior, distanced themselves from her. Faced with the consequences of her actions, Sophia found herself in a desperate situation, crying and pleading with everyone for bail money. Unsuccessful in garnering support, Benjamin filed for divorce the very next day, and Sophia was served with legal papers while still in jail. Sophia's descent into turmoil accelerated upon receiving the divorce papers in her holding cell. She unleashed a torrent of screams. In the following months, Benjamin successfully secured a straightforward divorce, capitalizing on the adult state laws, with the police report serving as a damning testimony. Simultaneously, our legal pursuit against Sophia unfolded. Although she was expected to compensate us for Luna's medical bills, her lack of resources led to a lengthy sentence as the judge ruled against her. Additionally, we obtained restraining orders to ensure her distance from our family. Confident that Sophia would not have the opportunity to approach us again, we remained vigilant. However, in the unlikely event that she attempts to breach the boundaries, she should be prepared to face the unwavering protection of Mama and Papa Bear, who are resolute in doing anything necessary to safeguard Luna. Call an ambulance. Hurry up, my husband, who always rubbed me the wrong way, collapsed on the floor in a greasy sweat. The paramedics arrived immediately. They quickly checked my husband's condition and put him on the stretcher. Then they said to me, "Are you his wife, aren't you? Could you come with us to the hospital?" My husband was placed on the stretcher, and he looked at me with pleading eyes. I met his gaze squarely. "No, I will not," I said firmly, with no hesitation. "What?" My husband's voice came out as if he had lost his mind. "This man is a stranger, so I am not coming. Please take care of the rest." "Wait, Lydia, what?" "Wait." I then confronted my husband with something I had been carrying in my pocket for the past few days. The moment he saw it, his face turned even paler. "How dare you treat me like a slave all these years? This is my revenge. I will never forgive you. My name is Lydia. I'm a 36-year-old housewife living in a rented apartment with my husband, Caleb. I was introduced to Caleb by a colleague at work when I was still employed full-time. Despite being more of an introvert, I occasionally attended parties invited by my colleague who had many friends. One day, I reluctantly agreed to join a barbecue with his friends. There, I met Caleb. Surprisingly, we connected instantly despite my initial reservations. Caleb, the outdoorsy type, turned out to be sociable and humorous. We exchanged contact information, went out for dinner and shopping, and eventually started dating. After several years of dating, Caleb proposed, and we got married. Caleb had always been kind, taking me out of my indoor lifestyle. However, over the past few years, he started to do and say things that made me feel a little uncomfortable. I quit my job and became a housewife because Caleb himself wanted me to. However, he often made sarcastic remarks about it. For example, when I got sick and was late cooking dinner, he would say, "Lydia, why isn't my dinner ready yet?" "Hi, sorry, I was sick today. I had a rest earlier, and I couldn't get up. Can you go take a bath first?" He would reply, "Huh, what's that? You're a housewife. You should at least take care of the meal." Caleb never seemed to worry about my health, which made me very sad. Another time, I mentioned a reunion in my hometown, saying, "Hey, Caleb, there's a reunion coming up in my hometown. I'll finish my chores, so can I go?" He would simply respond with, "Suit yourself." Well, being a stay-at-home wife is great, you know. I envy you, Lydia. You get to play around with the money your husband makes. Although Caleb was usually really nice to me, carrying my purse and bringing me flowers after work, there were times when he acted like a jerk. I even thought maybe he wanted me to work, so I suggested taking a part-time job. However, Caleb insisted that was not the case, and in the end, I remained a full-time housewife. One day, one of Caleb's relatives called me out of the blue. I picked up the phone feeling a little defensive. The relative on the other end of the line called my name in a panic, "Lydia. Caleb's mother has collapsed." I froze at the unexpected words. According to my relative, she had gone to visit my mother-in-law a few hours earlier and found her lying in the yard. An ambulance had rushed to the scene and taken my mother-in-law to a general hospital. In a panic, I ran out of the house and arrived at the hospital. I was told that her condition was still unpredictable. As we discussed this, Caleb came running in out of breath. We moved to the hospital room to check on my mother-in-law, who was sleeping in bed. Her body was covered with various tubes, and it was painful to watch. "Mom," my husband called out to her, but she did not respond. Caleb stayed in the hospital room for the rest of the day, and I decided to go home to gather everything needed for the hospital stay. After a while, my mother-in-law recovered enough to sit up by herself. However, it was difficult to do anything without someone's help. I was glad she could get up, wondering if she would be able to walk again with continued physical therapy. As her discharge date approached next week, I said this to Caleb, and then he started to say something I didn't understand. "Oh yeah, are you ready? We'll be leaving this house next week, so you'd better start packing our stuff." I couldn't comprehend what he meant. Caleb seemed annoyed, as if he didn't like my reaction. "We don't need this house since we are going to live with my mom at my parents' house. You are still as dense as ever, aren't you? Does that mean I'm going to live with my mother-in-law after she gets out of the hospital? I never heard anything about that. Did you decide to move in together without talking to me? Have you already canceled the lease on this house?" When I said that, my husband became even more grumpy. "Of course, I've already canceled the lease. It's the right thing for us to do as a family, to live together and help her. Don't tell me you don't want to live with her, do you? I'm the one who makes a living, so I won't accept any complaints," he said, and went back to his room with deliberate footsteps. I never thought that Caleb would take such a hardline approach. I can't believe he's canceling the lease on this apartment. I have no choice but to move out. I know he is worried about his mother, but this is too much. I sighed deeply. A few days passed, and suddenly I was living with my mother-in-law. I had never been a caregiver before, so everything was new to me. I had to spend most of my day feeding, bathing, and toileting for my mother-in-law. She didn't want me to take care of her, and she hardly communicated with me. Furthermore, when I tried to talk to her, she would hide in bed, saying she was in pain. When my mother-in-law was healthy, we didn't have a bad relationship. In fact, we sometimes exchanged delicious-looking snacks we found at the department store. Perhaps she was too frail to care for others. On the other hand, my husband Caleb, who had forced us to move in together, rarely came home. After work, he would go out for drinks and come home in the morning. Even on his days off, he would find some reason to go out. When he came home, all he did was play video games in his room. I decided to talk to Caleb while he was playing games. "I know you can't avoid working overtime or drinking with your colleagues, but can't you at least help me take care of your mother when you're at home? Or I would like you to help me with the housework." I said this, and Caleb replied without looking away from the screen. "What are you being so naive about? Housework and caregiving are both your jobs. I'm tired from working, you know. Oh, I'm almost out of coffee. Go make me some and clean this room, okay? And oh, take these to the dry cleaner. I need them by Wednesday." My husband spoke one-sidedly and threw his work clothes at me. This time I was annoyed and retorted, "That's enough. I've been doing housework and taking care of your mother every day for the past month without a break. Why can't you at least help me a little?" Caleb then slammed the game controller down on the desk, stood up with a mighty thud, and said, "How dare you talk to me like that? Who do you think you owe your livelihood to? If you have a problem with me, then get out. Come on, get yourself together and get out." Well, I feel sorry for my mom. She's going to be left alone without anyone to take care of her. That being said, I couldn't say a word. It's true. I only have a little money saved up, and I can't leave my mother-in-law, who can't do anything for herself. Holding back my emotions, I picked up his suit and left the room. After about 6 months of such a difficult life, my mother-in-law suddenly passed away. I woke up in the morning and went to check on her like I always do. But that day, she was no longer breathing. I called an ambulance and took her to the hospital, but it was too late. Caleb was in tears and sad. I don't know why, but I couldn't cry. I felt cold when I saw Caleb crying. Without hesitation, I thought to myself, You didn't do anything to help her. When I realized that I don't have to take care of her anymore, I felt a sense of relief. I felt guilty for feeling that way. Time passed so quickly. After the funeral, I suddenly realized that 2 weeks had passed since my mother-in-law was gone. It was time to organize her belongings. After my husband left for work, I started cleaning my mother-in-law's room. I put her favorite clothes and accessories into cardboard boxes one after another. But there weren't many, so the work was over soon. Next, I opened the cabinet by my mother-in-law's bedside. There was almost nothing in it, but there was a big can on the bottom shelf. I thought I had seen it somewhere before, and it was a can of assorted sweets I had given her when she was still in good health. I wondered why it was there. I'd opened the lid of the can, and there was a letter inside. When I picked up the envelope, I found the words "Dear Lydia" on it. I hurriedly opened it and looked inside. In trembling letters, there was a message for me. "Lydia, I am sorry for making you take care of me. I was ashamed of myself for forcing you to work for me every day. I was also ashamed of my son Caleb. I know how bad he was to you, Lydia. You should leave him and live your life the way you want." My mother-in-law knew everything. She knew that her son was being selfish, and that I was suffering from it. At the end of the letter, she wrote, "I am glad that I was able to spend the last days of my life with you, Lydia. Thank you." At that moment, I cried for the first time since my mother-in-law passed away. It was as if everything I had been holding back was flowing out of me. I cried and cried until my tears ran dry. And then I made up my mind. I would divorce my husband. 10 days have passed since I found the letter from my mother-in-law. My husband is still treating me like a slave. "Lydia, I'm missing one of my socks. Where is it?" "Oh, and take my car to the car wash today. You've got nothing to do, right?" "He's going out with his colleagues for golfing today." I guess he's completely forgotten about it, but today is our wedding anniversary. Well, I don't even care about it anymore. What are you going to do while I'm golfing? You can't just sit around, you know. You have to prepare dinner, clean my room, clean the bathroom. You have a lot to do. His arrogance left me speechless. "Hey, can you hear me? Bring me my sock and a jacket. Hurry up, or I'll be late." At that moment, Caleb fell to the floor, clutching his stomach. He was in pain and sweating. He told me to call an ambulance, as if he was trying to squeeze out the worst. I froze at the sadness of the situation, and my husband yelled at me, "Hurry up, you're really useless. Can't you even call an ambulance?" Hearing these words, I became strangely calm. Then I called 911, and within minutes, an ambulance arrived with paramedics. The paramedics quickly assessed Caleb's condition and placed him on a stretcher. As they put him on the stretcher, they said to me, "You're his wife, aren't you? Would you come with us to the hospital?" Caleb looked at me with pleading eyes as he was placed on the stretcher. I looked him right in the eye and said, "No, I will not." I said that firmly, with no hesitation. Caleb's voice came out as if he had lost his mind. "This man is a stranger, so I am not coming. Please take care of the rest." Then I confronted Caleb with something I had been carrying in my pocket for the past few days. The divorce papers that I was forced to sign when we had a fight a while ago. My husband had always told me that if I disobeyed him, he would serve me with the divorce papers. Caleb tried to snatch the divorce papers from me, but he couldn't seem to move due to the pain, so he had to lean back on the stretcher without any efforts. "Excuse me, but please leave now," I said. As I said this, the paramedics finally took my husband away in the ambulance. He must have looked like a poor husband whose wife had given him a divorce. He should be embarrassed. I watched the ambulance leave and then left the house. It took a long time, but the divorce papers were accepted, and the divorce was officially finalized. While Caleb was in the hospital for a week, I was busy packing my belongings and sending them to my parents' house. Then one day, I ran into Caleb when I was at the grocery store. "Lydia, please don't do this to me. You love me, don't you? Please don't leave me. I admit I've made some mistakes. You listened to me no matter what I said, so I just got carried away," he pleaded. The overbearing attitude he had a few months ago was gone. and he looked completely pathetic. What are you talking about? The divorce is already finalized. It's too late for you to act so fragile. Go ahead, live your life as you please. He didn't really think that I was going to divorce him, and he looked quite shocked. His hands were shaking, and his face was turning pale. Well, that's that then. Bye. It had been 6 months since Caleb and I had divorced. Caleb had once visited my parents' house, ringing the intercom and calling out my name so loudly that I had no choice but to see him. Sure enough, he wanted me to get back together with him. When I kept quiet, he began to reveal his current lifestyle to me. He can't cook because he forced me to do all the housework. He eats only TV dinners or eats out. And he has gained 10 pounds since the divorce. It's true that he put on a lot of fat on his face and stomach, noticeable at a glance. Additionally, he doesn't seem to understand how to do laundry. The shirts he wears are wrinkled and smell weird, making him look even filthier. I finally realized how great you have done, Lydia. If I don't do something, the people at the company won't like me, Caleb said, sobbing cheap tears. In other words, he wants to treat me like a servant again. There's no way I'm going back to that. No, never. If you make any more noise, I'll call the police, I warned him, treating him like a stranger. Caleb started to be afraid of the word police and left the house crying. I'm sure he wouldn't get involved anymore. I hope so. My ex-husband seemed to be leading a very inconvenient life. On the other hand, I was leading a fairly comfortable life. For a while, I stayed at my parents' house, but now I have a small apartment and live alone. My standard of living is much lower than when I lived with my ex-husband, but I still like this life where I can have my own time. I thought it would be difficult to get another job at my age, but a friend of mine happened to have a connection with someone who retired, and I was able to get a job to take her place. I feel so happy to be able to spend time and money only on myself without anyone telling me what to do. From now on, I want to take care of myself at my own pace. My name is Emily, and at 26, I'm a driven career woman. Currently, I share a home with my husband, John. Lately, I've been contemplating starting a family soon, but John believes we should first focus on building a house and settling down before considering children. Therefore, we're diligently saving money for our future home. Despite my desire to start a family promptly, John remains adamant about his stance. Whenever I broach the topic of children, he reiterates the need to establish our home first. It's disheartening how he disregards my perspective. I resign myself to the idea that I must work harder to contribute to our savings. John and I have been married for a year now, and I've noticed a pattern in our relationship. He rarely considers my opinions, a trait that persisted from our dating days. Initially, I admired his strong convictions, but in marriage, mutual respect for each other's viewpoints is essential. I fear our marriage is faltering, especially with the influence of his parents, who live just a short drive away. John frequently visits his parents, citing reasons like cutting down on expenses. However, I've discovered he indulges in drinks with his coworkers, conveniently omitting these expenses from his frugal calculations. It's perplexing how stringent he is with me about saving, yet lenient with himself. His frugality extends to trivial matters like conserving hot water and turning off lights prematurely, directives he imposes solely on me. If only he extended the same standards to himself, perhaps our relationship wouldn't feel so one-sided. I would be seething with anger. However, he seems to believe it's acceptable to impose his ideas on others. Every week, when we visit his parents' house, a new problem surfaces. Hasn't it been a year since you got married? We want some good news soon. Well, we'll be able to see our grandchild, exclaims both my in-laws, putting immense pressure on me. Glancing at John, sitting beside me, I can tell he's glaring disapprovingly. It's evident he wants to say, "Don't say unnecessary things." While I share the desire for a child, John insists on building our own home first. It's entirely inappropriate for my in-laws to pressure me to have a child in this situation. Rather than advising John, who doesn't listen to my words at all regarding having children, my in-laws persist in pressuring me. Despite wanting to speak up, I'm silenced by their constant pressure for a grandchild. After the meal, John announces, "I'm going out for a smoke. You know, Emily, it seems like you're working, but if you want to be a housewife, you should quit your job and work hard to be a good wife." Maybe that's why John isn't paying attention to you. It feels as though I'm being told I can't have children because I'm working. Despite my strong desire for children, John is the one not thinking about having them anytime soon. "Just quit your job already," urges my in-law. I retort, "It was John who asked me to work." Why don't you talk to John first before constantly lecturing me? Expressing my anger, I continue, "When it comes to having children, I want them too. But it's John who stubbornly refuses to listen to me until we have our own home. Instead of nagging at me, why don't you make sure you tell your son the truth?" My words leave my in-laws in a state of shock. I excused myself with a simple apology and left the table, making my way towards the entrance. The anger within me extended to John, who leisurely smoked by the entrance. Without saying a word, I climbed into the car, and he followed suit, casually remarking, "Hey, are you leaving already?" Knowing he would never disclose the truth to his parents, I grew weary of the various things my in-laws constantly told me. I declared that I wouldn't be visiting my in-laws' house anymore, and John widened his eyes in surprise. "Why not? We can save on food expenses, right? You also want a home soon and children, don't you?" he questioned. Fed up with the continuous impositions from both him and my in-laws, I snapped back, "If it's about saving, I've told you many times that we would save more if you stopped going to drinking parties or smoking. Instead of driving to your parents' house just to save the cost of one meal, why don't you save in that way? Everyone needs a break." Expressing my frustration, I continued, "You keep imposing things on me, like not using hot water and turning off the lights by 10 p.m. You think we can save money without sacrificing anything. If I have to go through all this trouble alone, then I don't need a home. I'm fed up with this. You never sacrifice anything yourself, but you're okay with imposing it on others." He seemed to downplay the situation, saying it's not a big deal. But I countered, "No, it is a big deal. How much patience do you think I've had all this time?" Moreover, I was infuriated by his pretense in front of his parents, making it appear as if I were the reason we couldn't have grandchildren. I'm tired of being the only one asked to have grandchildren. It's not me who doesn't want children, it's John. I've been saying it for a long time. I want children soon, so please stop being so angry. Seeing John struggle to deal with my unusual anger brought a slight sense of satisfaction, but it didn't resolve everything. Unsure of what to do next, I gazed out of the car window, ignoring John. A turning point for us came a month later when one of my relatives, my father's brother, passed away. With several pieces of land, a luxurious mansion, and a lavish lifestyle, my uncle's passing became a revelation for John. "Impressive. I didn't know you had such a remarkable relative," he remarked a few days later. Upon receiving news about my uncle's inheritance, I decided to discuss the details with the lawyer in our apartment. Recognizing that it was a matter exclusively related to me and had no bearing on John, I politely asked him to leave the room, especially since he seemed uneasy about the concept of inheritance. I wanted to spare him any potential trouble that could arise if he got involved. After about 3 hours of listening to the lawyer explain the intricacies of the inheritance, I thanked him and asked him to leave. However, to my surprise, John, who had been at home earlier, was nowhere to be found. Assuming he had probably stepped out to avoid interrupting my conversation with the lawyer, I started preparing dinner. Little did I know, 3 months later, John approached me, expressing, "There's something I want to show you," and took me for a drive. Excitement welled up as we entered a residential area, but my confusion grew when the car parked in front of a certain house. John then pressed the intercom, and my in-laws emerged from inside. However, it was evident that this house was not their home. "You finally made it. When are you and Emily moving over here?" "We're thinking of moving in by the end of this month," announced my father-in-law. He continued, blaming me for being a selfish daughter-in-law and accused me of always shifting the responsibility for having children onto John. I shot a disapproving glare at John, bewildered as to why he brought me here when I had clearly stated I wouldn't visit my in-laws anymore. Searching for an explanation, I questioned him, and he simply shrugged, stating, "Don't get so angry. If we live together, we can bridge the gap between you and my mom. Besides, this will be our new home from now on, so you should cooperate on the children issue as well. Live together." His revelation left me in disbelief. I hadn't agreed to living with them, especially after explicitly stating that I wouldn't go to my in-laws' house anymore. The situation was further complicated by the nature of the house. As John disclosed, it's a two-family house. My plan was always for us to live with my parents eventually. "So, what's the problem with living in a two-family house now?" he asked. The question lingered in the air as I mulled over the situation. Living in a two-family house seemed to be a significant issue, especially when considering our savings. According to our financial situation, building such a splendid new house was seemingly impossible. I couldn't fathom how John managed it. "My dad and I chipped in the money, so our savings are empty, but it's fine, right?" John casually mentioned. His nonchalant attitude perplexed me. He continued, "I heard your uncle's inheritance was worth $690,000. So, if you use that money to repay us for the cost of the two-family house, it should be fine, huh?" I was taken aback. The idea that he believed my inheritance should be used to fund the house without my consent baffled me. Even if I were to inherit the money, how I used it should be my decision, not his. Frustrated by my rejection of their proposal, John reached into his bag and pulled out a pre-filled divorce form with his name on it. "Your money is our money. If you don't like living together, let's get a divorce," he declared. I took the divorce form from his hand, expressing, "Fine, if living together is the alternative, then divorce is the better choice." Firmly placing the divorce form into my bag, I turned my back on him and my in-laws, who looked stunned. Ignoring their reactions, I continued, "By the way, I renounced my uncle's inheritance." John froze with a bewildered expression. Without waiting for a response, I took a bus and headed home to our apartment. Upon arrival, I promptly filled in my name on the divorce form, which already had John's name on it. I then submitted the divorce papers and immediately purchased cardboard boxes at a home improvement store to start preparing for the move. Recognizing that I couldn't handle the move alone, I hired a moving company. Fortunately, it turned out that not many moves were happening during this season, allowing for a quick relocation. As I packed for the move, a commotion outside the front door indicated John's return. I had the chain lock on, and I addressed him, "Sorry, I had the chain lock on. I don't know what you might do when you're so angry. Besides, I need to finish packing for the move. Could you stay at your parents' house for a few days?" "I won't accept a divorce," John declared, widening my eyes in surprise. I reminded him, "But you handed me the divorce form, didn't you? If you sign the divorce papers, that means you agree to the divorce, you know." Astonished, I questioned whether he truly understood the implications of what he had done. He frowned, appearing frustrated, but quickly changed the subject. "Why would you give up on a $690,000 inheritance?" "Normally, you'd inherit it," he questioned. It seemed he had overheard some details about the inheritance but hadn't grasped the full story. Likely, after learning about the $690,000 inheritance, he had rushed to my in-laws, and they impulsively purchased the two-family house without considering the consequences. I explained, "The inheritance discussion came to me because there wasn't anyone else to inherit it. My uncle had 3 sons, 2 daughters, a wife, and grandchildren. However, all of them renounced the inheritance, so it ended up coming to me. My uncle did have $690,000, but he had to demolish his mansion, spend a lot on maintaining his land, and had plenty of debt. I realized that renouncing the inheritance was a better choice than inheriting it." John was in disbelief, exclaiming, "No way. So even if you had inherited $690,000, you're saying there wouldn't have been much money left. That's fraud. I explained that the lawyer and I had a proper discussion about it, but someone had eavesdropped and left before hearing the whole story. My words left him speechless, and perhaps he finally realized he was in the wrong. However, I asserted, it's too late now. You betrayed my trust. We've already filed for a divorce, and you and I are no longer a couple. Why are you suddenly saying you don't want a divorce now? If you truly didn't want a divorce, you should have followed me right away when I returned, shouldn't you? I reminded him of the consequences of his actions, emphasizing that his mother's opinion about the divorce didn't change the fact that he and his father had invested in the two-family house. His mother's lack of experience with work didn't allow her to fully appreciate the value of money. I sighed, realizing it wasn't my role to listen to his complaints about his parents. If we were still a married couple, I might have entertained the conversation. However, I reminded him, you haven't submitted the divorce papers yet, have you? He pleaded, if you do it now, we can still be a couple. Please, let's live together in that two-family house. I've already submitted the divorce papers, so it's pointless now, I replied. His expression slumped in front of the apartment door, appearing bewildered and lost. While I believed he brought this upon himself, I couldn't let him linger outside forever. Briefly considering sending him away, I realized I had no time to waste, so I continued with my preparations for the move. After a while, he was gone, and I proceeded with the move, informing my workplace about the divorce, especially since my boss had acted as our mediator. Feeling obligated to apologize for the divorce, I also shared the news with my coworkers who had been invited to our wedding during lunch break. Unexpectedly, he burst into my department in front of my coworkers, claiming, "It's absurd that you're talking about the divorce. I wish you hadn't mentioned it." He disclosed the situation in his department, assuming I had inherited an estate, and suggested buying a two-family house. When faced with the choice between divorce or living together, I chose divorce. Consequently, he found himself being avoided by everyone. I even received sympathy from colleagues. Eventually, he quit his job. During this time, a male colleague confessed to me, saying, "I've actually liked you for a long time. I hope to build a home where we can communicate as a couple and work things out together." She proved to be such a nuisance, always obstructing my path, right up until the bitter end. My husband spat out those words. It made me question if he was truly human at all. He was insufferable, not only as a parent, but as a person. "I'm sorry. I will avenge you," I declared, standing before the funeral attendees, reading the letter left by my daughter. As I read, my husband's face turned ashen. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" My father-in-law's angry voice echoed. The revenge was about to commence. "My name is Elma, a 40-year-old housewife. I've been married to Carl for 15 years. We met in high school, becoming classmates in our sophomore year. We started talking after becoming desk mates and grew closer while working together on a school festival project. After the festival ended, he confessed, and we started dating. We continued dating through college. Carl moved out on his own, so I often visited his apartment. After graduation, we both started working and got busy, but we still made time for dates and meals out. Once we both started earning more, we enjoyed traveling during our holidays. I cherished those trips we took while dating. 3 years into our working lives, we decided to get married. We had saved enough for a wedding and had settled into our jobs, so it felt like the right time. Since we had dated since high school, we already knew each other's families, which made meeting the parents and house visits go smoothly. Many people attended our wedding, including our high school classmates, celebrating our union. Afterward, we started our married life, which was full of joy. Even though we'd been together for over 8 years since high school, we felt fresh and excited in our married life. It felt real when my last name changed to his. We were having a smooth marriage. 3 years later, our daughter Rosa was born. Wow, she looks like an angel, so cute, Carl exclaimed, holding our newborn daughter. I'll work my butt off to protect our family, he declared. Thank you, be our rock, I replied. You can count on me, he assured confidently. With a new member to protect, my husband seemed larger than life and very reliable. After giving birth, I worked part-time in his company. The first reason was to have more time with our child. Raising her was incredibly joyful. Every little milestone, like crawling or walking, was a moment of excitement, and I took countless photos and videos, like any proud parent. When I told Carl, he'd say, I wish I could have seen that, with a tinge of regret. We spent blissful days playing with our daughter on his days off. As Rosa grew, she became conversational. We loved taking her to different places and letting her have various experiences. We were excited about thinking of her future dreams and the path she would take. But everything changed when Rosa was in the 3rd grade. I was working part-time when suddenly I got a call from the hospital. Rosa had collapsed during class. In a state of panic, I hurried to the hospital. My husband left work early to join me, and together we listened to the doctor's solemn words. That's when the shocking truth hit us like a tidal wave. Our daughter had a rare disease. Depending on the treatment, she probably had about a year to live, the doctor explained. My mind went blank. My daughter was burdened with an incurable illness. All that awaited us was the use of medication to ease the symptoms, with no guarantee of halting the relentless progression of the disease. We were devastated, grappling with the harsh reality of why such a small child had to endure this cruel fate. As time passed, her condition worsened. 6 months later, walking became a challenge, and she could no longer attend school. Our days were consumed by hospital visits and lying in bed at home. Gradually, she became bedridden. I had to quit my part-time job to care for her full-time. It was a necessary sacrifice, as anything could happen while I was away. Supporting her became our top priority. Around this time, my husband's demeanor underwent a drastic change. He easily fell into bad moods, and the atmosphere at home grew tense. When I welcomed him home with dinner, he responded with irritation, questioning my choice of fish. His complaints about every little thing persisted. The house felt peaceful and calm when it was just my daughter and me, but anxiety crept in whenever he was around. His irritability escalated, and he started coming home late, citing overtime work. Strangely, I felt relief when he stayed out late. The mental exhaustion lifted. Yet, I couldn't shake the loneliness. He had stopped caring about our daughter's well-being. When I implored him to talk to her more, he dismissed it, claiming fatigue and declaring that taking care of her during the day was enough. 2 years had passed since her diagnosis, and she continued to fight against her illness with unwavering spirit. Despite her strength, my husband refused to acknowledge her efforts. Instead, his overtime increased, and he started staying out overnight without a message to me. The days without him felt strangely comfortable, even when he was home. Our interactions were minimal, and he seemed to sense the tension, avoiding unnecessary conversations. Strangely, my daughter, in the midst of her struggle, noticed the growing distance between us. "Did you and Dad fall out?" she asked one day. "You hardly ever talk when you're together, right?" "Most of the time." I could hear voices, and it sounded like they were arguing. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to worry you, but it's okay. We're not on bad terms, really. Yes, true, Dad's just really busy with work, so when he's home, he's resting. That's why I don't talk to him much so he can get some rest." I reassured our daughter. "Oh, I see," she responded, a little relieved but still seeming sad that her dad wasn't talking to her much. "Did Dad start to dislike me after I got sick?" she asked with a hint of worry. "That's not true at all. A parent can't hate their child. Like I said, he's just busy with work. Don't worry, he doesn't hate you, okay?" I comforted her. After putting our daughter to bed and leaving her room, I sighed. Why am I causing her to worry like this? She's in a life-or-death situation, and I'm troubling her with this. Gathering my courage, I spoke to my husband when he came home. "Hey, Rosa is feeling lonely. She's wondering if you started to dislike her after she got sick," I admitted. My husband, who had been listening reluctantly, seemed surprised that our daughter would say such a thing and finally looked at me. Yes, she did. So please, even if it's just a little, talk to her. She's lived past the life expectancy she was given, so it wouldn't be strange if we lost her anytime. Let's make sure neither of you has any regrets, okay? I pleaded. I got it, he said begrudgingly and in a low voice. The next day, being Sunday, I deliberately created time for just my husband and daughter to be together. I went out to the store for a couple of hours. When I returned home, I asked him, "Did you get to talk to Rosa?" He replied, "Yeah, we talked about various things." I was glad if it was for our daughter's sake, but then my husband started to get ready to go out. "Are you going somewhere?" I inquired. "Yeah, I'm going out to eat with a friend. Why don't we all have dinner together as a family?" I suggested. "Ah, I've been invited, so I can't say no. I've done my part by talking to Rosa. It's time for you to let me go." Saying that, he left the house, leaving me puzzled. What does he mean by "let me go"? I felt like nothing had been resolved. Maybe my husband was just going through the motions out of obligation. At that moment, I decided to stop expecting anything from him. It was enough if I cherished our daughter. That's what I thought. I focused more on making conversation with her. Then, one day, my husband came home in a bad mood. "Hey, get dinner ready quickly," he demanded. I had stopped trying to say anything to my husband, so I prepared dinner, put it in front of him, and was about to go to our daughter's room when he stopped me. "Hey, pack a week's worth of clothes in the duffel bag. I've got a business trip. Make sure you pack all the essentials, like the razor too." After saying that, he went to take a bath without even clearing his dishes. Why do I have to do this? But surely if the bag wasn't packed by the time he got out of the bath, he would get pretty mad, and if he raised his voice, it would worry our daughter. If she woke up, I sighed and went into his room to pack the clothes into the duffel bag. Well, it's a relief. He'll be gone on a business trip for a week. With him gone, I can relax. I packed the bag and left it in his room. The next morning, my husband left without thanking me or saying anything. That annoyed me, but I decided to let myself do as I pleased. First, I called my parents to come and see our daughter. If my husband is away for a week, my folks can stay over without any worry. They seemed torn, happy to see their granddaughter, but saddened to see her bedridden. They were all smiles in front of her. But once she fell asleep, their faces were filled with pain and loneliness. "It really is unfair of God," they said. "Why couldn't it be an old-timer like me instead of a good kid like Rosa?" My parents stayed until the very last minute before my husband was due back. As time went on, Rosa's condition worsened, and she had to be hospitalized. I was gripped with fear that the inevitable might be near. I visited her in the hospital every day, but my husband never came. Instead, when he returned home early, he sent angry messages on WhatsApp, upset about dinner not being ready. At this point, beyond sighing, I thought it might be better without a husband who couldn't cherish his own daughter. However, his work, painful as it was to admit, allowed me these moments with her. Not only my parents but also my in-laws came to visit her often at the hospital. Rosa always seemed happy when someone came to see her. We even celebrated her 12th birthday in the hospital room, where the nurses prepared a cake, and we all celebrated together. But about a month after her birthday, Rosa's condition worsened, and she passed away. I was devastated, breaking down in tears. The reality shattered my emotions. My parents tried to comfort me, but they ended up crying with me. Still, we had to see Rosa off properly. Together with my parents, I arranged and prepared for the funeral. There were things I had to do, all for Rosa. I managed to hold back my tears and proceed with the funeral arrangements. We arrived at the funeral parlor early before the other mourners. My husband, irritable about having to get up early after coming back from his business trip the day before, was infuriating. He hadn't been reachable when Rosa passed away, and he had the gall to say, "I was on a business trip. Even if you had contacted me, I could have made it back." He tried to light a cigarette in frustration. "Go to the smoking area, please," I said sharply. Tutting, he looked irritated. After I called him out, standing by the coffin on his way to smoke, he said something awful to our sleeping daughter. You were such a pain, always in my way, right to the end. My husband spat out these cruel words as if they were nothing. Is he really human? He was the worst, not just as a parent, but as a person. I was rendered speechless by the horrible things he said. I couldn't move from the spot until my husband walked towards the smoking area. When I came to, I went straight to the coffin. I'm sorry. I will take revenge in your place, I told my daughter, steeling myself with determination. I could never forgive him. Then the funeral began. Unbelievably, my husband, who had just said such terrible things, pretended to cry in front of the relatives, saying Rose's name as tears streamed down his face. I knew it was an act because I saw him apply eye drops before walking up to the coffin. The relatives, not knowing any better, misunderstood and started crying too. Unforgivable. I would reveal his true nature no matter what. As the funeral was drawing to a close, it was time to read the letter left by my daughter. What? There's a letter. My husband was clearly surprised, not having known about it. Yes, there is. I have to properly convey the words she left behind to everyone. I stood before the funeral attendees and began to read my daughter's letter aloud at the microphone. The letter was mostly words of gratitude to me for the care I had given her. With each word I read, tears came and I choked up. The relatives also started to cry along. But as I got to the part about my husband, I took a deep breath. To Dad, I read, as the tears naturally stopped. Against Mom, who was always by my side, you seemed to avoid coming home as if you were avoiding us. Even when you came home, all I could hear was your voice yelling at her in my room. Dad used to make time to play with me when I was little, taking me on drives to all sorts of places. But after I got sick and became bedridden, Dad seemed like a completely different person. Mom always pretended to be strong in front of me, but I could tell she was really struggling with how Dad was behaving. It hurt me, thinking maybe it was my fault things turned out this way. But it seems that wasn't the case. Remember the day Mom went shopping, and it was just Dad and me at home. You came to my room and talked to me. Then, maybe because Mom asked you to, I was so happy. It felt like the old Dad had come back. But then, thinking I was asleep, you took the phone call. You were talking to a woman. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I know everything. You were planning a week-long trip. Did you enjoy the Disney trip you went on behind our backs, and you told that woman on the phone that you loved her? As I read my daughter's letter aloud, the room buzzed with tension. My husband stood there, pale as a ghost. What the hell are you doing? My father-in-law's angry voice boomed. The revenge had begun. My husband just stood there, speechless, stuttering. Ah! My father-in-law grabbed him by the collar and yelled, "You fool!" before striking him across the face. My husband, staggering, denied the affair, saying, "It's not what it looks like. There must be some mistake." What's the mistake? Rosa would never lie, but I haven't had an affair. My husband stuck to his denials, holding the microphone. I've already caught you. Stop with the futile resistance. Yes, I had seen my daughter's letter beforehand and hired a private investigator. I had gathered plenty of evidence of my husband's affair. I showed the photo on my smartphone to everyone at the funeral. All the relatives attending glared at my husband. How could you go on an affair trip when your own child's life was hanging by a thread? You're finished as a human being. I didn't raise you to be such a terrible adult. Mom, Dad, you're no son of ours anymore. We disown you. My husband just collapsed on the spot, trying to escape the pain. I didn't want to face the reality that my daughter had become like that. What are you even saying? That's no excuse for having an affair. And if that were true, you would have spent more time with Rosa. Don't lie now when we've come so far. And I heard from your parents. You were asking them for money for Rosa's medical expenses because it was so costly. I never heard a word about it. That means you were using the money your parents sent for your own pleasure, right? You exploited your daughter's illness to collect money and have an affair, didn't you? Don't give me that. How dare you do such low things and then talk about suffering? Rosa was the one suffering the most, fighting desperately to survive her illness. To have a father like you, Rosa was the one to be pitied. You're not wanted at this funeral. Get out of here right now. I shouted at my husband with all my might. He fell on his butt, let out a small yelp, and then hurriedly ran away from the place. After that, I reset and continued with my daughter's funeral. When it was over, my in-laws apologized deeply and offered to help with the divorce and alimony in any way they could. I proceeded with the divorce and demanded alimony through a lawyer introduced by my father-in-law. But that wasn't enough for me. I took the house my husband had bought and also told everyone at his workplace about what he had done. My ex-husband, who had made it to the position of manager, quickly lost all credibility at the company. He was demoted and sent to work in a remote location. He asked his affair partner to come with him, but she promptly dumped him, saying she had no interest in a man without money. In the end, to his affair partner, my ex-husband was just a rich plaything. My ex-husband was abandoned by his parents and relatives, left to work alone in a distant place, living a lonely life in his house. It's all what he deserves, and honestly, I'd like to beat him up to my heart's content if I could. Meanwhile, I sold the house I got from my ex-husband and moved back to my parents' house. With the alimony from my ex-husband and his affair partner, I had a considerable amount of money. I didn't feel like working for a while after my daughter passed away, but gradually, I started to think more positively and began working part-time at a cafe near my parents' house. Mom's homemade cake. Rosa loved it so much. I remember my daughter saying that. Now, I bake sweets every day while working at the cafe and honing my pastry skills. I hope to one day serve my own creations on the menu, and just like how my daughter was happy eating my cake, I want to see someone else smiling while eating my cake. For my daughter's sake, I have to live my life to the fullest. With that thought, I put my all into working towards my dream. Today, thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you resonated with the content, please leave a positive rating and a comment.